Welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show with celebrity nutrition expert, fitness Hall of Famer, and four-time New York Times bestselling author, JJ Virgin. JJ is a warrior mom whose knowledge and expertise have helped change hundreds of thousands of lives with over 3.5 million podcast downloads and appearances on Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Rachel Ray, Larry King Live.
Whoa. This show is about you, not about me. I want to help you find practical, real-world ways to dial in your health and mindset so you can finally lose that weight and feel strong and energized. Stop settling for less than your personal best. It's time to find out how to look and feel better than ever. And I'll be right here with you the whole way.
Today, we are talking miracles. I've got my buddy on today who I met a couple years ago. And I actually think the first time we met, we were on a panel together. This is my buddy, Hal Elrod. He is the author of The Miracle Morning that really created a movement of people becoming aware of how critical it is to start the day off with a success routine. I mean, like he has impacted over 1 million people with this. It is just crazy to look at. So, and all self-published. So today he's on the podcast because he has a new book coming out. So again, huge success with The Miracle Morning, started a massive movement with that. And that all came from, he's had not one, but 2 near-death experiences, which he's going to talk about today. And, his big mission now is to elevate the consciousness of humanity one person at a time. So he started that with The Miracle Morning. Now he has the Miracle Equation. And like, this was a crazy interview because as we started to talk about the Miracle Equation, I realized that this is exactly what I did when I was going through the challenge with my son, where my son Grant at 16 was the victim of a hit and run, left for dead in the street, in a coma, torn aorta, nearly died. The doctors told us to let him die. And how I got him from near death to better than before the accident, despite the 13 fractures and torn aorta and coma, multiple brain bleeds. So you're going to hear that equation. And what's cool about this equation is anyone can do it. So I'm very excited to be sharing Hal with you. I also want to share with you from Lisa Frog, little podcast review from her. Thank you so much, Lisa. She says, get educated, 5 stars. I love JJ Virgin podcast. So informative, especially for the average person. Who's average, Lisa? None of us listening here or tuning in here are average. Love all her guests and her information. Her show touches up on all categories of health. Even if I take away one small thing from her show, I'm winning. I'm getting educated, and you should too. Thank you, JJ. Keep rocking on. All right. To me, anyone who is out there listening, putting into practice what they're hearing, that is not an average person, my friends. That means you by just the very nature of tuning into shows like this and listening to what you can do to make your life better and then putting into practice, guess what? That makes you extraordinary. So I'm so honored that you're tuning in, and I'd love to do a shout out for you. If you've not left a review yet, jump on over to iTunes and I will give you a shout out. We've got great show notes for today and a great gift from Hal, and you'll be able to get those at jjvirgin.com/miracle equation. Hal Elrod, welcome to the show. So good to have you here.
My friend JJ, it is so good to be here.
I know. When did I meet you? Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
I think we met at Genius Network when it was me, you, Brendan Burchard, and Dave Asprey. We were sitting around. You guys were drinking wine, and I was pretending that I liked wine because I wanted to be cool with you guys.
Fun to hang out with us.
Yeah, true story.
I think that was the time when Brendan had been drinking wine since noon, and it was now like 10 o'clock at night.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yep, that was fun. All right.
So friendly that day, yeah.
Yeah, he's always fun to grab at those times. Let's dive in. There's like so much I want to talk to you about. You've got the Miracle Morning, you got the Miracle Equation, the new book. But before we even go there, I know that these are based on, like, part of this whole thing was based on these near-death experiences you've had. And I'm like fascinated with near-death experiences since my son had one. I've always been fascinated about them. I know nothing about yours, and you've had two. So I'd love you to just kind of start there, and then we'll progress. We'll see where we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one was I was 20 years old and I was driving home from giving a speech at a sales conference that for the company I worked for. And I had a brand new Ford Mustang, a shiny white, 3 weeks off the lot, my first new car, bought it with my commissions, really proud of this thing. And a drunk driver got on the freeway on an off ramp or an on ramp. He got on going the wrong way. Let's just say that. And he was in a full size Chevy truck. And I don't remember him coming at me, but this full-size Chevy truck driving 80 miles an hour and I was going about 70 miles an hour. We collided head on and my car spun off of the drunk driver, and the worst was yet to come. You'd think a head-on collision at 80 miles an hour is as bad as it gets, but it sent me into oncoming traffic and the car behind me crashed into my driver's side door at 70 miles an hour. And that's where most of the damage was done. Instantaneously, I broke 11 bones. I started bleeding to death, and I eventually did bleed to death when they pulled me out of the car. It took them an hour, and I had lost a large amount of my blood, and my heart stopped beating, and I was clinically dead for 6 minutes. They medevaced me to the hospital. They used the defibrillators and shocked me back to life, and I was brought back to life. And they said I would never walk again. And I woke up from a coma 6 days later. And I had to face this reality. And so that was, you could say that was definitely what most people would call a miracle. And the miracle came after, like, that was a miracle that I lived. But in terms of creating a miracle, if you will, the doctor said I would never walk again. And I said, no. Like, I get that that's a possibility. And I accept that. If I never walk again, I told them I will be the happiest person you've ever seen in a wheelchair, because I'm in a wheelchair either way. But I am committed to walking again. Like, I am putting all of my energy, my life force, my belief. I'm visualizing it. I'm praying about it. I'm planning on walking again until proven otherwise. And 2 weeks later, I came out. The doctors came in with routine X-rays, and they said, "We don't know how to explain this, but your body is healing. So, like, we don't know how to explain it, but you can walk today. Like, we're gonna let you take your first step in therapy." It was like today or tomorrow, the next day, and I took my first step, and the rest is history, as they say. And then 2 years ago, so that was when I was 20. I'm 39 now. And at 37, I woke up in the middle of the night having trouble breathing, and a couple weeks of having my lung drained 11 times and on and on and on. We figured out that I had this very rare aggressive form of cancer.
Oh, yeah. I remember this. I remember when we were all praying for you and raising money for you on this one.
Yeah. And it all of that was part of the miracle, I think. But I was given a 30% chance of surviving. And I, in an effort to turn that 30% into 100%, I had to apply this, kind of this strategy, this formula, if you will, and that I called the miracle equation. And that I'm grateful to say that, 2 years later, I'm in remission and I'm doing well and healthy and got my hair back and putting some weight on and all of that. But yeah, those were the two experiences that really led me to, we could talk for hours and hours on all these lessons I learned, but it really taught me that we have the power to create miracles in our own life, and that miracles aren't some passive random act that you sit back and you pray and you wait for, but you actually can create them. And that's at least my belief.
So relate to everything you're saying, as you know, because like they told me my son we called Grant Never Gonna, because here he was, in a coma. Oh, he'll never wake up. Oh, he'll never walk. He'll never talk. I go, he's going to be 110%. It's going to be better than before the accident. I named my book Miracle Mindset.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I'd love to kind of dive into what you think of as a miracle, because I found when I started to use that word, that is a very charged word, Hal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you define it? What do you think a miracle is?
Yeah, and there's a lot of definitions, right? And I think that, like if you've watched the news, or if you Google like real life miracles, there's all these stories, right? There's a story of a guy, I forgot his name, it's in the book, but where he fell 2 miles, 14,000 feet or something. He fell to his imminent death where his parachute didn't open. He was a skydiver, and he lived and had relatively minor injuries, right? And it was called, a real life miracle. There's a story of Donnie Register's miracle. This guy who he put his hand up, and he was an assailant in his liquor store, held a gun to his face. He threw his hands up, and the bullet deflected off his wedding ring. And that was featured on Oprah as, Donnie's real life miracle, right? So there's these miracles, but I feel like they give miracles kind of a bad rap, and they create, the skeptic in us is like, yeah, well, how does that help me? It's great. Maybe it's a miracle, maybe it's a coincidence. I don't know. So for me, the way that I really, I try to take anything that's woo woo, right? Like the Miracle Morning, there's a lot of woo woo practices, but I try to ground them in reality and results and that sort of thing. And I did the same thing with miracles in general. So here's how I define a miracle. It's any outcome that is beyond the realm of what you believe is probable for you. So I'll say it again. Any outcome that is beyond the realm of what you believe is probable for you. And thus, when you accomplish it, it feels like a miracle. And if you look at the word I said, though, I said probable, not possible. And that's because if you're an optimist, which anybody listening to your show, I would imagine, is probably an optimist. We all believe in the optimist credo that anything is possible. Yet possible is rarely enough to get us out of bed in the morning with the drive and the motivation that we need. Everything's possible, right? But people don't work towards what's possible. They work towards what's probable, what they believe is a likely outcome. And in doing so, their life stays the same, right? We typically don't pursue goals and dreams that are really big and scary and out there, and we just stay within our comfort zone. And so, for me, whether it's overcoming a life-threatening illness or adversity, right, that's a miracle somebody's after, or overcoming anything that's holding them back, or it's trying to, accomplish something extraordinary, make millions of dollars and have the relationship of their dreams, and whatever it is, right? These are the type of kind of tangible, measurable miracles that I think that we all want to create in our lives.
And that are possible.
that can become probable, right? And that's the thing, is how do you move these miracles from possible to probable to inevitable?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, honestly, I love everything I'm hearing, because I remember staying in the hospital going 110%. That's how I'm going to drive through it. Now, I know we're talking about your new book today, but before we go into your new book, I do want to talk about your first book, because your first book, Miracle Morning, a self-published book that sold over 1 million copies and really started a movement, making people aware, because it's interesting. I think I might have done the Miracle Morning with Cameron Harold when he did it for entrepreneurs. Like, when you start to look at successful people, what you find they have in common is a morning routine of some sort, right? But you really shone the light on that. Like, I think a lot of people didn't realize it was all kind of something quietly everybody was doing. So where did the Miracle Morning come from? And you have really started a movement with it. How the heck did all that happen?
Yeah, it really organic. It's interesting that, so every book that I've written, well, the Miracle Morning series is kind of its own animal, but the Miracle Morning, the Miracle Equation, these are things that I was practicing in my own life, and they really were transformative for me. And then I felt a sense of responsibility to share them with other people. I think a lot of authors, that's, very often that's how their books come about. And in 2008, when the economy crashed, I crashed with it. And I, after a 6-month kind of downward spiral where I lost over half my income, I lost my house, my body fat percentage tripled. It was really like the lowest point in my life, physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. And I just started searching, what do the world's most successful people do every day that I don't do? What are their routines and rituals? And back then, morning rituals weren't that prevalent. Like right now, there's, since Miracle Morning came out,
you made morning rituals prevalent. They weren't.
It is
quietly did them. You did it.
It is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And now there's like so many books on it, But so for me, I kept coming across morning routines and morning rituals when I was just searching on Google. But I was not, like most people, I did not think I was a morning person. I had this limiting belief that says, no, I'm a night owl. I've tried to be a morning person. I can't do it. I can't beat the snooze button. It just doesn't work for me. And I had that limiting belief. And so every article I saw, like, morning routine, change your life in the morning. I'm like, no. And I would literally just skip it. I'm like, what else do they do? Where's the success plan for people that wake up at 8? Or, and finally, I literally don't remember the headline, but one article grabbed my attention and I started reading it. And what I realized is, how you start your day isn't just something to maybe sort of consider. It's arguably the single most important determining factor in your success, because how you start your day sets the tone, the context, the direction for how you live your day, determines, how the life that you create. And so I started practicing. I wanted to create the ultimate morning ritual, and I created this thing. And within 2 months, I doubled my income. I went from being in the worst shape of my life to deciding to run an ultra marathon. All these amazing things happened. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, sweetie, it feels like a miracle. Like this morning ritual, it's like a miracle. She goes, it's your miracle morning. I go,
wow.
Yes. Yes. I was like, yeah, it's my miracle morning. And then I started teaching it to my coaching clients, and every single one of them said, I'm not a morning person. And every single one of them a week or two later goes, oh my gosh, Hal, I did your little tricks. It works. It totally works. And that's when I thought, I have to write a book about it. And when I wrote it, it was like, maybe this will change a few lives, like not million copies, in 100 countries. Like, so yeah, that really took off beyond what I ever imagined. And, yeah.
All right. Now you're moving into the next one. Where did this come from? You did Miracle Morning. Now you have the Miracle Equation, which I know we're going to dive into, but how did that come to be? And because I'm assuming this is kind of takes off from where, Miracle Morning was in the morning, right?
So what's interesting, it kind of doesn't. The irony is, so if anybody at first glance, if I were on the outside looking at my, Miracle Morning, Miracle Equation, I'd go, oh, okay. So it's kind of a spinoff of the Miracle Morning, right? The Miracle Equation is something that I started practicing 6 years before the Miracle Morning was ever even an idea. It was not even a book, let alone a book. It wasn't even an idea. When I was 20 years old, I started practicing this thing called the Miracle Equation, and I created it to break a sales record in my company. And essentially, which in other words, I was trying to accomplish something that in the 50-year history of the company, which the company was Cutco Cutlery, in 50 years, no one had ever done this. So I was trying to do something that felt very close to impossible. And I reverse engineered it, and I go, okay, if I'm going to break this record, if I'm going to be able to pull this off, it would feel like a miracle. What would I have to do between now and the deadline, right? And I broke it down to two decisions. I thought, I've got to make two decisions. I've got to not only make them, I've got to maintain them, no matter through the ups, the downs, the self-doubt, the fear, until the last possible moment, regardless of my results along the way, even if I'm not on track. And the way that it played out is I wasn't on track. I was faced with so much fear and so much self-doubt. It looked virtually impossible. And I didn't really believe I could do it, but I had committed, I will maintain these two decisions no matter what. There is no other option. And in miraculous fashion, literally in the last hour of this window, this time, it was a 2-week sales contest. In the last hour, things like fell into place in ways you just keep in mind. Like the wrong person showed up and ended up being the right person. It was crazy. And it really felt like a miracle. And I went to this conference and I said, I stood up on stage and I won my award. And I said, you guys, I said, there's something I'll teach you at some point. It's called the Miracle Equation. I just tried it for the first time and it worked. And then what happened was, I didn't know if it was a fluke, right? I'm like, there's always luck. One time anything can happen. So I started teaching it to my colleagues, one after another, after another, after another. And literally it was 100%, at least for like 2 years. Every single person that I taught it to went out and applied it. And they had not the same results, but they had their best results ever. They broke their own personal best in every single case. And then I went, this isn't like that confirmed the validity of these decisions, this formula. And I went, it's not a coincidence. Like if you apply this, it works. And then the last kind of phase of this is I started looking into my past and then into the world's most successful people in any walk of life. And I realized, the self-help industry tells us so many reasons that we're not where we want to be, right? You need a book on productivity. You need a book on, it's your emotional intelligence. It's your lack of confidence. It's your limiting beliefs. It's your morning routine. It's on and on and on, right? And I realized that we can distill it to these two decisions, hundreds of answers from why we're not where we want to be, we can distill into two decisions.
Okay, I'm dying over here.
All right, so we'll dive into it.
Okay, yes. So it's like the two okay, so if it's what are they? What are the two?
So here's the two decisions. And I'll preface them with one more thing, and that is that these two decisions, they're deceptively simple in their explanation, but very rare in their execution because they're totally counter to human nature. So the two decisions are unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. And at first blush, if I just left it at that, you'd be like, yeah, I got nothing out of that. Like, great. So I got to believe I can do
that whole thing. And I'm going to apply it back to, having a kid that nearly died and I was told he would never do anything again and going unwavering faith.
Yep.
And what was the second one?
Extraordinary effort.
An extraordinary effort. I was like, whatever I have to do. Like there it was. Those were the two things.
And that's it. You look at anybody. And so
not easy, by the way.
Not easy because it's totally counterintuitive to human nature. And here's, so I'll break these down. So unwavering faith, there's really two parts to it. You have to establish it and you have to maintain it, which is what makes it unwavering, right? You have to, and so think about this. Establishing faith that you can do something you've never done before is completely counter to our human nature, because there's no evidence. You're looking around, you're looking in your past, you're going, there's no evidence that I can do this.
Right. And everyone around you will tell you you can't. So there you go.
Yeah. And there's probably, if there's evidence of anything, it's that you can't do it, right? I mean, you probably can find that a lot easier. But if you look at anybody in the world that's, the world's most successful individuals, prolific achievers, creators, innovators, right? They all of them, every single one began by establishing the faith that they could do something that either they had never done or no one had ever done. And then once you establish it, which again, going back to the optimist, right? Some optimists with uninformed optimism can establish the faith like, I can do it, I believe, right? But that's the easier part of faith. It's how do you keep it from wavering? And that's where you have to maintain that faith through the ups and the downs when your faith is tested. So the first decision, if you're listening to this and you go, I want to create an extraordinary life, I want to be highly successful, I want to be a millionaire, I want to change the world, I want to whatever. It starts with the first decision that you will establish the faith that you can do something you've never done before, or whatever it is that you want to do. And then you've got to commit to maintain that faith until you achieve the outcome that you desire. And that might take you 10 times longer than you think that it's going to. The second decision, extraordinary effort, right? And again, it's so simple, but yeah, you've got to do whatever it takes, right? In simple terms. But the one thing that I do in the book is I try to make extraordinary effort as ordinary as possible, because right, we hear extraordinary effort is like, that sounds like hard work. And human nature is to take the path of least resistance. It is to always do what is easy over what is a little more difficult, right? It's always easier to do nothing. So extraordinary effort, the way that I define it in the book is I say I call it the power of the process. You've got to define, okay, what is the recurring process that will virtually guarantee my success inevitably? Like it might take a while, it might take a long time, but if I do this thing and I keep moving in the direction of this goal or dream, eventually I'll get there. So like if you want to lose weight, well, think of it, every result that we want to create in our lives, or miracle, whatever you want to call it, is preceded by a process. So losing weight would be, well, I've got to limit my caloric intake and I've got to exercise, right? And if you commit to that process over an extended period of time.
That one, but we'll
go ahead.
I was like,
I just went down the wrong. That's not my expertise.
You went down the wrong one.
I'm speaking in a very general term.
He didn't mean it, everybody. He didn't mean it.
I didn't mean it. No, listen to JJ, not me on health. But I'll use the real life example of how this came to be, which is, I can look at my sales career and I go, okay, I know that to sell X amount and earn X amount of income, I've got to do X amount of appointments and make X amount of sales. And then I can back that up further. Well, then how many calls do I need to make to set that amount of appointments? And so my process is I will commit to making X number of calls 5 days a week, right? 52 weeks a year. And I know based on my averages that if I simply do that and I just can completely let go of my emotional attachment to my short-term results, because I know that if I commit to the process without being emotionally attached to my results, my success is inevitable. I'll eventually get there.
Well, and I love that you are saying this in a much more long game fashion, because I feel like now more than ever, we're so focused on the short term. And like, I always play the long game and I always know I'm going to win in the long game because I'm just not going to quit grinding, which is what I'm hearing here. It's like, have that big vision, have total faith in yourself. You can do it, and then get the process and grind.
Yep.
And it probably will take a lot longer than you thought it would. Okay. Well, what could stop us? What could hold us back from all of this and make this not happen? Because when you really get down to it, anyone can do these two things.
Yeah, 100%. So what's going to stop us is, it goes back to, again, it's human nature, right? Our human nature is to let self-doubt or fear consume us. And our human nature is to do what's easy versus what's right. And when I say what's right, I'm talking about right in terms of what you've committed to doing that'll move you forward, right? And so, what's that 3 Feet from Gold, that famous book? The idea that we too often people stop before they get there. And so we'll talk about self-doubt. I think that's the biggest one. Self-doubt stops us from even trying, right? I'm not going to establish faith I could do something because I have doubt that I could actually do it, right? It's not, we want some sort of guarantee. Like, you think about it, when was the last time, if you're listening, when was the last time that you pursued a goal that you didn't really believe was likely to happen? right? Probably not very often. It's like we want some sort of guarantee of success, which is what keeps us where we're stuck where we are, because we know that if we do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got, and that's better than people think it's better than risking. Well, what if I fail? What if I try and it doesn't even happen, and I waste all this time and energy? Right? Kind of anticlimactic. So the thing about unwavering faith is it sounds very elusive. It's like, well, okay, I get it, but like I don't get it. Like, how do I actually? What's a tangible way for me to maintain unwavering faith? And it's simpler than simpler than you might think. It's to put it in writing and have a mantra, either in writing or just simply in your head. But I think everything should be in writing, so you look at it, you see it. But it's a miracle mantra. And this is what I did when I was in that sales contest. I created a mantra. I thought, okay, I know I'm going to have a lot of fear and self-doubt. And whenever I have a no sale, the self-doubt's going to creep up. Whenever I have a bad day or missed appointment or whatever, I'm going to have self-doubt. And so the miracle mantra is really simple. It's, I am committed to blank no matter what. There's no other option. And so when I felt fear, and I'll talk about how I use this in my cancer journey as well. But when I was in that sales contest, and whenever I had a no sale, and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way. What happens is the old adage, what we focus on expands. So if we have that, feel the self-doubt, if we focus on the self-doubt expands, and then we focus on it more, and it expands bigger and bigger and bigger until it consumes us, and it completely stops us from moving forward. So what you have to do is you have to replace your fear or your self-doubt, but your fear with faith. And that mantra is how you do it. So whenever I would have a no sale or a no show, or like after my first week during the sales contest, I wasn't even 50% of even halfway to where I needed to be. And that when that voice of fear and self-doubt crept up, I squashed it. I overrode it with, no. I'm committed to selling blank no matter what. I'm committed to reaching my goal no matter what. There's no other option. And I literally said that hundreds and hundreds of times. I said it in my head. I said it out loud. And it's what kept me making one more phone call, taking one more step, moving forward, right? Is that mantra. And when I had cancer, I had a 30% chance of living, and it was the miracle equation. I mean, literally the day I was diagnosed, and I'm like, how am I going to beat these odds? I mean, it was within the first few minutes that my first thought was the miracle equation. That's how I've beat the odds every time before. And it's proven to work. It's how other people have beat their own odds. And it's how I'm going to turn this 30% chance of surviving into 100% chance. And whenever I would be afraid of dying and leaving my kids and leaving my wife, and, those fears were absolutely there. And they showed up, probably almost every day, at least they entered my head. But I did not dwell on them. I didn't go down that rabbit hole. I didn't let that focus expand on what I was afraid of. I simply said, and my mantra then was, I'm committed to living to be 100 years old with my family, no matter what. There is no other option. And I said that thousands of times over the course of the year that I had cancer.
I will tell you that there was every bit of evidence to show that Grant was never going to talk, walk, nothing, right? And I was like, Grant's going to be 110%. I'm doing everything so that he will be 100. I just said that over and over and over and over and over again. And the more I listen to this, like anything that you're going to go after in life, you're going to have fear and self-doubt. Otherwise, you're just doing the same old stuff. So the minute you step up and you start going after bigger things, those things are going to show up. And you just now have that antidote to it. To me, I always say, I know I'm playing big enough when those things show up, because if they aren't showing up, it's because I'm taking it easy. And now you have a thing you can say.
And by the way, I just realized I have to interview you on, you'll be my first miracle equation interview on my podcast. So JJ, we got to follow up after this. And I totally want to hear, have you share Grant's story and in the context of the miracle equation.
What's so cool is just like with the Miracle Morning, I think so many of us quietly had these morning routines who were successful, right? And all of a sudden went, oh, this is a thing. Like, who knew? And now you're describing like what you did to get through the cancer scare. And I'm like going, that's exactly what I did with Grant. But there wasn't a thing, like no one said. And when I was writing the book, I was trying to explain how I did this. And really, when you get down to it, it's those two things. And they're simple, not easy, but simple. And once you know those two things in that equation, and then you have what I would call this antidote to all the stuff going on out there, all that stuff of like, he's never going to make it. Like the doctor's literally telling me he's never going to walk. I'm like, sure, he's going to walk. Treat him like Kobe Bryant. He's going to be running, but you have that antidote to it. You got it. So this is just awesome. And I know you're giving everybody that sneak peek into the book, which I'm super excited about. You'll be able to grab that at jjvirgin.com/miracle equation. We'll put the link to Miracle Morning too. And Miracle Equation, I'm assuming, will be at all bookstores and Amazon and all that.
It is my first traditionally published book. So normally I have to say it's on Amazon, but now it's everywhere. Yeah.
Yay. Wow. So cool. I bet it'll be a big, this is one that should be a big airport book too.
Yeah. Yes. I've been in talks with that and trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's super good. Because like I don't really go to bookstores anymore, but I definitely go to airport bookstores. Love those. Love me some airport bookstores. Along with that,
that's a great point because you have to drive to a bookstore. I don't do that, but I do walk into all the bookstores.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I need something. So it's fantastic. So again, jjvirgin.com/miracle equation. You'll get your sneak peek right away. We'll have the show notes, get you links to how to grab both books because you definitely want both books. And Hal, it has been awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with me today.
JJ, this is so great. I feel so good right now. Thank you.
You are welcome. Now, after the break, I'll be answering a listener's questions, so stay with me. Welcome back. This is the time where I answer a listener's question. This question actually came up today on an interview. I was doing an interview for a documentary at my house. And it's interesting. This day has been all about talking about miracles. And so we were talking about Grant, and the interview was like, well, how did you stay healthy during that crazy time? And, when my son was in the hospital, I had a book coming out and I had to make that book successful so I'd be able to take care of my kids. I'm the primary financial support. And, but my son was in the hospital. I was there, every day while I was doing all these interviews. It was crazy. And I realized the only way to pull that off was to put my self-care at the very top of the list. And, when you think about it, when you're under enormous stress and pressure, there's no margin for error. You have to be at the very top of your game. And fortunately, I came into the whole situation there because I put my health first, but I made sure I kept it there too. And that's super important. So while my son was in the hospital, I would literally leave the hospital, usually around 8:30 at night, and I would go to sleep. Like I'd drive. I was staying 10 minutes away, literally get there, wash my face, get in bed, go to sleep. And I'd wake up between 5 and 6 because I had to head straight back over to the hospital in the morning. And I always wore my workout clothes. I just wore my workout clothes every single day to the hospital because I would either sneak out at some point during the day to the gym that was a quarter mile away, or I'd just run the hospital stairs. And then I made a point when he was able to be out of bed and in a wheelchair to just push him all over the hospital grounds. So I was moving more, but then I also got in real exercise. Whenever any friends said, what can I bring? I'm like, bring healthy food. And I made sure I had my fridge back at the place stocked so I could bring food with me every single day because there was nothing healthy at the hospital, let me tell you. And I had friends bringing food over, and Whole Foods actually was bringing food to me too. And so I was getting in my sleep every night. I was getting in my healthy food. I was exercising and taking a load of supplements to help me handle stress, as well as doing some tapping to help lower stress hormones and reaching out to my community and really staying connected and getting help from friends. But I think the real key thing here was I knew that in order to get my son to 110%, the way I was going to do that was making sure that I was, at the top of my game so I could focus. I knew that was one of the key things that I had to do in order to get him there. And that's what Hal talked about today. It's like, what are those things that you have to do? I knew that was one of the things because I knew this was going to be a long haul. It took like 5 years to get Grant to the point where he really is better than before the accident, but it takes time. So play it for the long game. And, in the long game, your health is always going to be the number one thing. I love that saying that when you have your health, you have 1,000 dreams. If you don't have your health, you've only got one. So make sure that you make health your priority, and then it makes everything else easier to accomplish. All righty. I will see you next week. If you haven't left a review yet, I would love to give you a shout out. So head on over to iTunes, leave a review. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe and share this with your pals. And I'll see you next week.
That's all for this episode of the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, which marks another step towards a healthier body and mind. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week.